when you go about trying to do creative things without the right belief systems, you will start thinking you're not creative. And when you start thinking you're not creative, you start feeling you're not creative. And when you start feeling you're not creative, you will become not creative. Have you ever tried to create something? Have you ever tried to design something? Have you ever had an idea and you tried to work on it, but somehow you were not able to create the tangible expression of that idea? Have you ever tried to write a book? You have these great ideas in your head, but you've not been able to sit down and write the book, even when you try to sit down to write the book. Have you ever tried to start a business? Have you ever tried to build a brand? Or just anything that you have ever thought about? Maybe it's an idea you've had, maybe it's a skill that you've always been wanting to put out there in the world to serve people. But every time you try to create something tangible from these ideas, these skills, these talents that you have, you always fall flat on your face. Then this is the episode that you want to listen to, because today I'm going to give you the key that you need to unlock that cage that you have found yourself and that you want to come out of so bad. I'll tell you a quick story. I have a little daughter who is almost 3 years old, and whenever she sees me trying to unload the dishes or trying to mop the floor or trying to use the vacuum cleaner, she always wants to do what she sees me do. So she wants to take the mop from my hand, she wants to take the vacuum cleaner from my hand, whether it's me or her mother. She would want to take over and do what she sees us do. And when we give her the chance to do it, she discovers that she's not able to do it. She struggles with it for a while. She wants to try to do what she sees mommy and daddy doing, but she just doesn't have the capacity to do it. No matter how enthusiastic, no matter how passionate she is about that particular activity. Does this sound familiar to you? Have you ever found yourself trying to perform a task that you've seen other people perform? Maybe you watch other people do it on the internet, maybe you've watched other people do it on TV, maybe you've heard about people do a particular thing, and you feel like you have the same gift, you have the same ideas, you have the same calling to do the same things, but somehow, no matter how passionate you are about trying to do it, you just can't do it. You've seen other people launch their books, you've seen other people write their books, you feel like you can write a book too, you feel like you're even smarter than the people who you've seen write their books, but somehow something is holding you back. You're passionate about the idea, but you just can't seem to find yourself doing the action, doing that creative activity that will produce a book, produce the song, produce the business, produce the brand, produce whatever it is that you have in your heart that you want to create for the world to see. Now, in my previous episode, I explained why many people are not creative, and I told you something really fundamental. Many people are not creative because they try to do creative things without understanding the order of creativity. And so because they see people doing creative things, they see people launching books, they see people creating products, they say, okay, I think I can do this. And then they try to do creative things. So they try to do creative things. After they make frantic efforts to do creative things, they discover that they're not feeling creative, despite all their efforts to do this thing that they feel they actually can do. And so they start feeling like they are not creative. Actually, they start thinking that they are not creative. Now, when they start thinking that they are not creative, they begin to say to themselves, oh, maybe this is not for me. I don't think I'm creative. I don't think I can write a book. I don't think I can create a brand. I don't think I can start a business. I don't think I'm wired for this, right? And then when they start thinking like that, they start feeling like that. And then when they start feeling like that, they start being like that, right? So these are the 4 reasons why most people are not creative, because they have set the order in the wrong way. The correct order will be to first be in the state of being creative, and then begin to feel creative. After they start feeling creative and getting stirred up to manifest that creative state, then they start thinking of intelligent ways that they can manifest their creativity, thinking of ideas to overcome the things that are blocking them from doing that creative activity, and then they'll find that they can now act or do creative things. Now, this is the correct order. This is the correct order. And I'm going to explain what I mean by being. Now, being is a state. No matter how hard and how passionate you try to do something, if you have not become a person that can do that activity, you will never succeed in actually doing it. And that's why I told you that story I told you at the beginning. You may have good intentions, you may have passion and desire to perform a creative activity, but until you grow into becoming the person that can do that activity, you will never be able to succeed at doing that activity. And that's where being comes into play. What is being all about? Being is all about growing and maturing and getting transformed into the person that can carry out a creative idea from the point of conception to the end state of unveiling that idea as a tangible expression. Now, to go back to the story of my little daughter, no matter how passionate she is to want to do what she sees mommy and daddy doing with the vacuum cleaner, she will never be able to do it until she grows to become that person, until she grows to become the person that can actually do it. And in the same vein, no matter how hard you try to start that business, to create that product, to write that book, until you grow to become the person that can actually write the book in your state of being, you may never be able to do it. Where many people go wrong is that they're trying to do an activity because they saw other people doing it without first achieving that state of being. And because they've not achieved the state of being, they start thinking, wow, maybe this thing is not for me. Maybe there's a cheat code I don't have. Or maybe the algorithm is against me. Or maybe people hate me. Or maybe it's my accent. Or maybe it's my skin color. And because they start thinking in that disempowering way, they start feeling that they can't do that thing. And the moment they start feeling they can't do the thing, they will actually never do the thing. Right? They will become the person that will never do the thing. And that will be their state of being. But when you first deal with the being and ascend to that point in your state, in the state of your mind, concerning how that you are the person that can do that thing, and you don't get there by accident, you get there by intentionality. You get there by growing, by getting transformed into the person that can do the thing that you desire to do. Now, today I'm going to be focusing on being. There are three components that helps you achieve the state of being. And these three components are identity, purpose, and belief system. Many people can never get to this state of being because they have lost a sense of their identity. So they are busy trying to copy other people. They are busy trying to do things because they see other people doing it without understanding their identity. And this was where Moses found himself. Moses, even though he was born as a Hebrew, he was given away to Pharaoh's daughter due to some unfortunate circumstances. And so he grew up with the wrong identity, trying to become like the Egyptians. He was raised like the Egyptians. He was educated by the Egyptians to also think like the Egyptians. And so Moses grew up without his true identity, without a knowledge of his true identity. He grew up trying to be like who he was not. And this is where many people find themselves, and that's why they are not creative, and that's why they cannot manifest their creativity. You're trying to be like someone that you're not. The moment you stop trying to be like what you're not, you find that it becomes easy to flow in the state of creativity. It becomes easy to manifest your creativity. So if you're listening to this right now, I want you to ask yourself this simple question. Who am I? Am I someone trying to be like who I'm not? Or this is my true identity? It took Moses 40 years in the wilderness before he discovered who he was, right? Even when he had signals while he was in Egypt that he was a deliverer, because he lacked creativity and he had not gotten to the state of being, he tried to carry out the assignment that he was given. He tried to carry out his God-given assignment using the brute force approach. And when he tried to force it, it was not working. He found himself trying to fulfill his assignment in the wrong way. And how did Moses discover himself? It was a burning bush experience. God was trying to get Moses' attention so that he could ignite Moses' creativity. And how did God ignite Moses' creativity? God revealed himself to Moses, and God revealed to Moses what his purpose was, and God used words to communicate a picture of who Moses actually was to him And the moment Moses caught that picture, he was able to reframe his mindset, and that was what released Moses into his purpose. And that brings me to the next component of achieving the state of being. You were created for a purpose. And the simplest way to identify your purpose is to identify what is that thing that you were born to create. It could be a product, it could be a service, it could be an experience, but there's something that you have, there's an idea that you have, there's a gift that you have, there's a skill that you have, there's a talent that you have that was given to you for a purpose, or that you developed so that you could use it to accomplish a purpose. And that purpose is to serve other people. Now, until you figure out how you can use the skills, the gifts, and the talent that you already have to serve people because of your understanding of your identity, you may never be able to achieve the state of being, because you'll be purposeless. And even when you try to do creative things, you will do it without the right motivation. And when you do it without the right motivation, you would always end up messing things up. Now, my question for you is, have you identified what you were created to create? Have you identified what you were made to make? The moment you identify these ideas, these gifts, these skills, these things that God has deposited on the inside of you, purposefully, the moment you identify those things and intentionally put them together and harmonize them in a way that you can serve others with that purpose in mind, then you have the second component of your being dialed in. The third component, like I have said here, is your belief system. You have to have the right understanding and belief system to be able to function as a creative. And this is so important, and this is why many people mess it up, right? When you go about trying to do creative things without the right belief systems, you will start thinking you're not creative. And when you start thinking you're not creative, you start feeling you're not creative. And when you start feeling you're not creative, you will become not creative. But when you work on the state of being creative, and you dial in your identity, you dial in your purpose, then you dial in your belief system, you will achieve this state of being. And when you attain this state of being, you find that you start feeling creative. And the moment you start feeling creative, you start thinking creative. You start thinking of ways that you can actually satisfy that feeling that you're feeling to manifest your creativity. The moment you start thinking like this, all the obstacles that otherwise would have stopped you, those obstacles that would have stopped you from writing that book, those obstacles that would have stopped you from producing that content, those obstacles that would have stopped you from creating that product, or starting that business, or building that brand, or growing that business, you start getting ideas, thinking and getting ideas to overcome them. And the moment you get to that point, you find yourself being able to do what it takes to overcome them. Until you fix your belief system to understand that God made you to make something that will transform the world that He has put you in. God created you to create something that will transform the world that He has called you to serve. And you start believing in the God that has given you the capacity and the ability to manifest this potential. And you start identifying with that belief and believing in yourself enough to think in a way that is consistent with your creative capacity. You discover that your belief system will fall in line. And that's the point where you begin to think and believe that nothing is impossible to you as far as manifesting your creativity is concerned. When you have that dialed in, and you have your identity dialed in, and you have your purpose dialed in, you discover that you achieve the state of being creative. Now, that's not all there is to manifesting your creativity. Why? Because you still have to feel creative. And in my next episode, I'm going to share with you how you can achieve the state of feeling creative, how you can achieve the state of thinking creative, and how you can achieve the state of doing creative things. I want to believe that you have received some value from all that I've said so far. I want you to drop a comment in the comment section and tell me what you think about all that I've said today, and tell me which component between identity, purpose, and belief system stood out for you. I also want you to watch out for my next episode where I'll be talking about how to feel creative. Thank you so much for listening. Have a good one. Bye-bye.